welcome, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And tonight, we're going to have a town hall because why not? Everything else is going crazy, so we might as well talk about all the things that are happening and how we're going to survive, maybe even thrive through this difficult, crazy time. For those of us looking forward to retirement in the not so distant future, our 401ks are now being called 201ks. And they've been decimated by that ill-conceived tariff plan that sent the stock market and global markets into a free fall. The dollar is falling. Our faithful allies and trading partners have shunned us. Canada has disassociated with us, and they are now forging their own path with European countries. In other words, our reputation and moniker of being the leader of the free world is no more, thanks to good old Donald Trump. Meanwhile, after he blew up the stock market, he went and played golf with his Saudi friends and business partners. And at Mar-a-Lago, of course. And if that weren't enough, we had about 3 or 4 service men who were fallen due to a training accident in Lithuania. And he failed to stop playing golf at Mar-a-Lago, and he continued playing golf and did not bother to receive those servicemen who had lost their lives. Literally, guys, the house is burning down, and apparently there are no firemen or women on the Republican side who are able to extinguish any of the flames that Donald Trump, their leader, is putting on our country. In this town hall, we're going to talk about all of this and more. And what must we do to survive these times? Coming up first, I have Clyde Allen of Detroit, Michigan. He is a Politico and stays on top of the latest happenings in the news cycle. He is affectionately known as the Senator. He is an entrepreneur, the owner of Pop's Place, a soul food fast food shop in Detroit, located at 13200 Dexter Avenue. He's reopening in just 2 weeks in time for spring, just in time for spring. Welcome back to the show, Clyde.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks for having me.
All right. Next up, we have Mary Rarick. Let's see. Okay. Mary, there she is. Mary leveraged her guilt and rage hangover from 2016 to step off of her privileged sidelines to start organizing for Democrats. Mary is known as a super connector. She is the volunteer coordinator for the Multnomah County Democrats and is a producer and host of You Can't Beat Blue video podcast. She lives in Portland, Oregon with her wonderful husband and their tuxedo cat, Paul Newman. Welcome back to the show, Mary.
Thank you so much for having me, Pam.
Absolutely. Next, we have Dr. Ronald Charles. He is the Chief Medical Officer of the Ingham Community Health Centers in Lansing, Michigan. Dr. Charles is a native of Detroit, Michigan, and is a board-certified internist. He is a fellow of both the American College of Physicians and the American College of Healthcare Executives. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Ron Charles.
Thank you for having me, Pam.
Absolutely. And next up, we have Renee Schalk. There she is. The screen is so small, I wonder. Renee Schalk. Renee is a graduate of Columbia University and a proud mother of 4 adult children and 7-year-old triplets. Yes, she is a Wonder Woman. She was a candidate for the Williamson County, Texas Precinct 3 Justice of the Peace. She relocated from Texas back to her native New York City and began practicing as a doula. She is a diehard Democrat and campaign organizer and staffer. Welcome back to the show, Renee.
Hey, Pam, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. And last and certainly not least is Latrice Davis. Latrice is a senior court clerk in the Queens County Criminal Court. She is also a member of the Queens Community Board 6, where she has served on the Aging, Social Services, Disabilities Committee, the Land Use, Housing, and Landmarks Committee, and so much more. She is active in numerous community events, and Latrice is also a former reporter for the Associated Press. Welcome back to the show, Latrice.
As always, Pam, thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Absolutely. Okay, we got some people saying hi in the comments. Good evening, Matt. Hello, happy Sunday, Lee. Hey, Zach, good evening. Okay, so guys, what a mess. All right, so right around 6:30 our Eastern time, because Mary, you're on Pacific time. The Asian markets opened up around 6:30 our time, and our 401ks, now known as our 201ks, are crashing yet again. The futures market is crashing, setting us up for what will happen to our stock market in the morning. I refuse to look at my 401k because my friend calls me and he told me yesterday he had lost maybe about $25,000 or so. And he just put in his retirement papers at his job. Literally, he's supposed to retire next month. At any rate, so let's talk about it. So, Clyde, I'm going to go to you first because you are reopening your business because you took off a little bit of time because you had to do some medical stuff. You have a small business in Detroit. What should we do now as things are burning up all around us economically? How are you moving forward?
Oh man, it's going to be tough because everything is going to go up. Everything from the meat I use, the bread I use, to everything. And I'm in the neighborhood, so I try to keep everything kind of cost efficient. But now it's going to be hard. I don't have any choice but to go up on the prices,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it works out. We'll see how it works out. I'm going to try to keep it as close as possible, but from where I sit, beef, tomatoes, lettuce, all that stuff is just going to shoot through the roof. So I don't have any choice, and everybody around me won't have a choice but to pass it on to you guys.
Okay. Well, if you all are in Detroit, all you Detroiters go to Clyde's shop, Pop's place. And at least you know what, you're not a franchise, you're self-made, so we got to support you, right? Renee, what are your thoughts, Miss New Yorker? We got two New Yorkers in the building on this show tonight.
Yeah.
How you're the only one of us with school-age kids and triplets at that. How are you planning on managing things?
Okay. Well, as you know, I have a secret Facebook group that's underground, and I always give people tips on what they can do to get through this process. And I started doing that after Kamala Harris did not win the presidency. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I told people is to start stocking up. I told them back there in November. Start stocking up, get your dried beans, get your, start canning foods, grow as many vegetables and herbs as you can that your space will allow. I live in an apartment, but I will be doing gardening in my apartment because I have, as you can see in the background, I have pretty big windows and I get a lot of sun. I tell people to work with your space, start eliminating things that you can't do. If you can own chickens, I would say own chickens, get your own eggs. I mean, but what I'm trying to give people is a way that they can be more self-sufficient. And then when things start happening, they don't have to depend on the market as much. One of the first things I told people is do not wait till you're 67 to apply for your Social Security. Those days are over where you want to max out on your Social Security. You just can't anymore. Apply. I think the rule is you can apply 4 months before you turn 62 now. I say anyone that is going to be eligible to apply for Social Security this year should do it. I'm not saying Social Security would go away forever because we don't know what's going to happen with the next administrations. We could have those smart young people come up behind us who can figure this out. But for now, this is where we are. So I say apply for your Social Security as soon as you can. If you can sell your stock in the market, sell it now. You could always think to reinvest in some other area that is not going to be as harmful. And what I mean by that is land and products and tangible items that will always be there for you to, form communities. Communities to invest in some of these things and take your singularity money out if you can. Those are just my advices to people that I know. And one last thing, if you do not have a passport, particularly as a Black person, shame on you. I just went Saturday to renew the triplets passports, and I'm not saying the country is going to crash or anything like that, but if you need to be able to get out of the country for a little while to reprieve and to just get your whatever back and just take a rest, you need a passport, even to go to Canada. So all Black folks, all people, but particularly Black folks, get your passports. It's not that complicated. They're not very behind right now. I thought they would be. They said, no, it's a standard 4 to 6 weeks that it takes. And so that's my quick answer to that. I mean, it's not a quick answer, but those are my little points. Thank you for asking.
They're very good, very, very good points. Does anybody else have any comments on that? Because I had some other questions for the rest of you guys.
I do. Along with that, I think everybody should have some type of exit plan, no matter where you are, not to necessarily get out of the country, but to get away from where you are if a problem arises.
Correct.
Mine was Canada, but now we're messing with Canada. So
I know.
I have to change up plans, but I'm definitely going to have an exit plan to get away from trouble if trouble arises.
But you know what, though, Clyde? Think about it. Canada, they keep saying to us on the television, they keep saying, the prime minister says, listen, I have no disrespect to the American people, but your leader I know is him. Because growing up in Detroit, there is nothing but mad love and respect with the Canadians, period. This is
just amusement parks there growing up. Boblo was there, so we'll ride the boat over to Boblo, over to Canada, stay all day, and come back home. I mean,
and I'm going to say, as a New Yorker too, we have a border with Canada as well, and they love us, and they're not mad at us because they're welcoming us. What they're doing though is they're not going to vacation in America.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of revenue loss for Vermont, Maine, New York, other places, Michigan, where they come over and they spend their money here in the States, and they're not doing it. But a lot of Americans have decided that they're going to spend their money over in Canada to support Canada, because the Canadians don't dislike us as Americans, as you say. They got family members over here, and we have family members over there. Right. And honestly, they particularly like Black folks, so that's all I got to say.
Yeah. All right. Zach says that he's going to see if the Detroit cycling community will support you, Clyde. There's usually a ride almost every night during the summer.
Sounds like a winner. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Zach, I'll make sure you get a flyer to know his location, and you can see his menu and stuff. Okay. I'll do that. All right. Let's see. Where's Mary. Here it is. Okay, Mary. What do you think the Democrats must do now to gain back the House, to get back the momentum? Because I'm still hearing this question about, okay, it seems like the Dems are getting their mojo back, they're fighting back or whatever. It took them too long to get their bearings or whatever. What must we do now?
Well, the leadership needs to follow Senator Booker and do something extraordinary, because the old rules don't apply.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else trying to meekly and mildly follow rules and all that just doesn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak from the other side, which is all of us, you know, and white folks in particular. We need to get organized. We need to be talking to friends. We need to be talking to neighbors, because I mean, it starts with us having those conversations. And my people, we're not so good at that. We've fallen down. We don't talk politics. We're nice. We're quiet and all that. And it does not work. And I can see now that it's beginning to hit people who look like me. They're waking up a little bit, but totally we need to get organized. We have to have those conversations.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Clyde, everybody's taking an interest in your pop shop. So Lee is in St. Louis, and she's telling you need to advertise to the summer school programs.
Oh, okay.
And listen, everybody wants to help you out. That's
I appreciate that. Because I got a feeling it's going to be a little tough, but I think we're going to get by. And they were talking about the having chickens if you can. I got a whole lot on the side of my house. I'm going to have to do a whole garden this year, and hopefully that'll take some of the cost up.
All right. All right. So Latrice, do you think that the Democrats can derive at a solid message to make the people have confidence in what they can do? Because I still see this a little bit of angst about people thinking, can they do it? Will they do it? Whatever. What do you think?
Well, I think we're starting to see, flickers of hope. Yesterday's protest, I'll leave it to others to decide whether or not they were a success, but it seems like every time white people take a step forward, they take a step back. I don't know how active you are on social media, but I'm sure some of you have seen the chatter about the bouncy house. And
I don't know about the
okay, so basically it was a woman, she attended a protest in Florida, and she gave it a Yelp review, and she said basically she gave it 8 out of 10, and she was saying she deducted points because they didn't have anything for children to do. Her son was bored. Maybe there was a bouncy house set up, and when I read the post, my thought was, this isn't a carnival, it's a protest. Right. So you're not meant to have fun. And on top of that, even though there was no police, no major arrest, nothing serious happened, anyone who's been to a protest knows that things can go left pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
And so when I read the post, I just thought to myself, is she aware of, is she cognizant of what really happens at protests and why we're protesting and how protests operate? And I feel like at this point in April 2025, I'm just using myself as an example, we shouldn't be having conversations that basic. Right. We are way past that now. Yeah. I do think the Democrats, I appreciate what Cory Booker did with the filibuster and whatnot, but my thing is, okay, now what? I appreciate the physical, the physical sacrifice that involved, but okay, what's the plan afterward? I know a lot of people aren't happy with my senators, and I get that. But it's okay, well, what's the alternative? Do you have a better plan? Do you have a better idea? Okay, people saying, okay, Schumer needs to go. Okay, fine, get rid of him. Who are you replacing him with? And you get crickets. So that's the thing that irks me about the Democrats, is that, or at least the people on the far left, when they're very quick to complain, but then it's okay, well, what's your plan? Do you have better ideas? And then you get crickets. So I think there's still work to be done on that front, but I think we are seeing flickers of hope, because white people are realizing that, hey, Trump's actions don't just affect Black people and other people who are not white. It affects them as well, like the layoffs, shutting down the CDC, and messing with Social Security, and terrorizing the stock market with these tariffs. I personally, I can't afford to retire right now. I'm not even on the other side of 50, so I can't even think about retirement right now. At my job, I recently just got vested, which means I'm eligible for a pension. Yay. But again, I can't even think about collecting. I'm not even 50, never mind 60, 62, 65. Will Social Security be around when I get to that age? Assuming I live long enough to get there, I hope it is. I do believe it will be. One thing I did, speaking of Social Security, I made an appointment and I went to the office and I got my, oh God, it just came up to my tongue, but like basically it's like a breakdown of your income every year, showing what you put into Social Security. So I picked that up, and I would encourage others to do the same if they can.
Right.
Okay, to the answer to Schumer, the answer to that is younger blood, more aggressive blood. You know what I'm saying? You just can't sit up and just give them everything and don't get back nothing. That was absolutely ridiculous. Didn't make any sense to me at all. Nancy even stood up and said, I would have gave him that for nothing and didn't come back with nothing. Come on, you know better than that. And talk about, well, if the government shut down, yeah, I get that. If the government had shut down, they would have left it shut down. But we're at the point now to some of this got to happen so people can really see it, so we can address it and change it.
Well, I think people are seeing it now. Like one of the things that kind of gets my goal is when I see these media stories about people who regret voting for Trump, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, that's too little, too late now. Like, what do you think we were sounding the alarm about back in 2024, and even before 2024 when he was in office the first time around during the pandemic? Before the pandemic. I mean, so it's not like, oh, you didn't know what you was getting. You just didn't think it would bite you in the butt. But now that it has, now you're like, oh, I regret voting for Trump.
I'm talking about us.
Okay.
Later for them. I ain't got nothing for them. I'm talking about us.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? What are we going to do?
Okay.
As I always say on this program, more Malcolm, less Martin.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, since it's Latrice kind of helped me out here with the segue, because we gotta get Dr. Charles in here, get him in the conversation, then we can have our conversation. I have a specific question for him. Okay, Dr. Charles, Health and Human Services has cut thousands. I want to say 10,000, but I can't remember. Of employees. Robert Kennedy claims that many workers will be called back because they realize they may have made a mistake. Okay, I understand all the USDA people got called back, and with back pay and what have you. We're in the middle of some measles outbreaks. Another kid just died. I can't remember what state that kid was in.
Texas?
Was it Texas? There was one that just died, announced today. That
might be California. I do remember reading something about that.
Yeah, somebody just died like today, I heard. So
well, I think Kennedy's on his way to Texas because they got 300 cases in Texas. So yeah. I'm not sure.
But at any rate, Dr. Charles, here the CDC, everything's been cut back. The CDC isn't even able to do their external communications like they used to do regularly. So the American Medical Association has set up a YouTube page. But really and truly, how do we maneuver in this world without adequate health information access? What do you suggest as a physician?
People need to listen to their physicians, listen to the professional organizations like the AMA, the American College of Physicians, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Board for Family Medicine. People need to listen to those professionals and take the lead from their recommendations, because presently we are not able to trust the information coming out from the agencies like the CDC and the FDA, because of the fact that we have those agencies have become politicized. Historically, they were never politicized; they were always nonpartisan positions, and even though you had people who were appointed to those positions, like director of the Human Services, they realized what their charge was, and they had experience. They had the educational background, the professional experience, lead those organizations. The present head of the HHS, which is Robert Kennedy Jr., does not have any credentials to hold those positions, as with most of the people in this administration. So you have to really turn to people who have had experience doing this work to um, be your guide. And that's regardless if you're talking about medicine, law enforcement, the military, etc. Trust people who have done the work.
Right.
Just like representation matters, so does experience.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen.
I have a question for the doctor. What do you think of WHO? Because one of the things in our group, we start trying to get out information from WHO, and most people know is the World Health Organization, as opposed to relying on some of the White House websites or some of the agencies here. What is your thought on that, doctor? Thank you.
Well, I would definitely I feel that people should turn to WHO, to WHO, or the World Health Organization, because they're not part of this whole political charade that's going on right now. So I think that if you hear information from them, you can kind of get that information. And this, I never thought I would say that we have to question our own organizations, governmental organizations, in terms of whether or not they're going to give us accurate and correct information, and they're going to put that accurate and correct information out into the atmosphere. But considering who is in office and who he is appointing to these positions, it is very scary times.
Definitely. You know what, guys? Last week I did a show on the mental health aspects of this whole era that we're living in. And one of the things that I couldn't dig deep into because of the nature of some of the people that were on the show being affiliated with nonprofit organizations, we couldn't get into the nitty gritty of the politics of the matter, because they had to be careful with what they say and that type of thing. But I gotta say this. How many of you have heard of Dr. Bandy Lee? Dr. Bandy Lee. She is a psychiatrist. She was affiliated with Yale University, and she was the first psychiatrist to ring the alarm bell on Donald Trump back in 2017, I believe, when she saw him running, and she says, "Oh my God, something's wrong with this man. Something's wrong with him. He's not right. He's not right." And she even wrote a book that says the duty to warn. And they got on her. She ended up leaving Yale, well, really being dismissed from Yale, because her work, they said, violated the Goldwater rule of diagnosing someone without them being a patient, which she didn't do. But she got a bunch of other psychiatrists to say the same, and it was a #1 best-selling book on the New York Times about the warning about Donald J. Trump. So now this whole behavior that she described, she and these other psychiatrists described, of him just tearing up everything, that was just part of his psychological makeup. What's he doing now, Renee?
Tear it up. It's chaos. That's what he wants. Chaos.
And everything is so chaotic and what have you. And my fear now is that the genie is out the bottle, and everything financially and with the trade and everything is based upon trust. So if you don't have the trust, I don't know if we can get back to where we were as leader of the free world. Will we be trusted, especially if he's still in office?
Well,
I would like to take a stab at that question. I think we can find our way back, but it's going to take time. Even though he's only been back in the White House for 2-3 months, the extent of the damage that he's inflicted is going to take years to repair. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's why we have to stay the course and be patient in terms of finding our way back. Like, okay, I'm sure some of you may have read in the paper about, he's targeting the Smithsonian, particularly the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And, when I heard about Kevin Young stepping down and resigning, it's unfortunate. I know him from his time at the Schomburg Center here in Harlem. And I'm a longtime donor. I'm a monthly donor to the museum, North Star Society member. I'm also a monthly member to ACLU, a Guardian of Liberty. So for me, I'm at that age where, no, I'm not going to be out in the streets protesting, but I'm in a position where I can financially help sustain these organizations who are willing to stand up to Trump, which the ACO has been doing for forever. The lawsuits take money, and the lawsuits take time to work their way through the courts. And we do have judges standing up to Trump. So I do think that's another flicker of light for us, that the courts is where Trump will ultimately have to answer for his actions. And not just Trump, but his inklings, his ilk. Because I've always said, even if Trump were to drop dead tomorrow, our problems won't end there. This is bigger than Trump. We got to keep our eye on J.D. Vance. We have to keep our eye on the cabinet with the Signal story, with the defense secretary. It's like, that was beyond incompetent what happened. And the fact that there has yet to be any accountability, again, it's one of the reasons why it's going to take years for us to fix things.
Were you saying something before?
I would like to kind of take a spiritual look at this administration and that person in office. I refuse to say his name. I try not to say his name. But Jesus said that we only have 2 commandments, because you humans couldn't follow 10. So Jesus decided to give you just 2, because if you follow those 2, you'll follow the other 10. And that was that we are supposed to love God and love our neighbors as ourselves. I don't think that man and the other people of his, and the other people that are supporting him, meaning the people that are working for him in his administration, I don't think the light of the Holy Spirit is in with all of us, but I think they're either ignoring that Holy Spirit, or they are suppressing the light of that Holy Spirit within themselves, or they just are oblivious to the Holy Spirit. And so, for example, he doesn't like himself. Therefore, he can't love himself. Therefore, he can't like or love others. So you have to if you don't like or love yourself, how are you going to like or love anybody else? So therefore, how can he do anything that's going to be beneficial for somebody else? Because all he can see, his light is so dim within him that all he can think about is himself. And that's the way I look at it. And I'm just trying to do what I can to make the world a better place, because I can't affect his behavior, but I can affect my behavior, and I can do things to educate people, to make people more aware of how of what they should be doing, and try to hold myself up as an example of behavior that should be emulated.
Well, you're coming very much from a spiritual standpoint, but what I feel, Ron, is that he really is a sick man. He's sick. He's sick. I mean, he is sick, Clyde.
Come on. We have to keep this real. Those people are pure evil. Stop. Those people are so evil. The cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
When they taking food out of the mouths of babies, when they don't care if you or me die, that's why I had to go. I had to close my shop. I had to have some medical stuff done, but I had to rush to get it done because I didn't know if my health care was going to be there. And if my health care wasn't there, I wouldn't have survived. The evilness is the point. And they don't care about nobody but themselves. The rich people, if you ain't got so much money in your bank account, you do not matter to them at all, period.
And I have to co-sign what Clyde just said. I have to co-sign that because, again, when you like you mentioned healthcare, like, okay, for years when Obama was in the White House and he was able to put the Affordable Care Act into action, you know, they wanted, now they're always talking about how they want to get rid of Obamacare. But yet when you ask them what's their alternative plan, you get crickets. So as Clyde just said, the cruelty is the point. They don't care about anyone who doesn't look or think like them. And here's the kicker. Like when I see these videos about black people supporting Trump don't care about them either. They're just a means to an end. They're a tool of convenience. As soon as he gets what he wants from them, they're going to be cast aside. And I don't know how they don't see that, but they don't.
But
that's about Latinos for Trump.
Well, I want to ask Mary a question, because Mary, in my group, I have many allies like yourself. And so I have conversations with them about how they feel about the protests that are going on and not seeing the 92% turnout, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not taking my brown round out there for nothing. And a lot of the 92% have decided that we're going to sit these protests out, because if we show up in mass numbers, then that gives Trumpster a reason to do martial law. And so I'm just wondering, how do y'all feel about it? Do y'all think about it? Are you empathizing with us that we're not going out there, quote, risking it for the biscuit? Because I'm just not going to do it. I think Trumpster has tried to put this whole country into PTSD. Black folks have been suffering for something called PTSS for the longest time, post-traumatic slavery syndrome. And so we've been out there in the trenches, and we're just, at this point, we just don't see that we're breaking anyway. And it's time for you guys to be out there and do this. So I'm going to leave it with you. I have plenty of people like you, and thank you for being an ally and supporting us, because we can't do it without you. That's
right
it.
on.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, Renee. You stay home. Stay home. If you want to stay home, please stay home. In fact, I just fully support it. It's time for us to stand up. It's about time, right? It's past time. It's way past time. If we would have stood with y'all back then, we wouldn't be dealing with this now. But we sat home then. We did nothing then, because we thought our proximity to power would protect us. We thought that. White women thought that their proximity to power would protect us. And that is the problem. And I see my role as speaking to white women. Well, you know, Fennell Norton, Pam.
Yes. Yeah.
Fennell's my best friend. And Fennell said, she's the one who talked me into getting onto TikTok, because 3 years ago, I'm like, I don't want to go there. My role is to support Black women and elevate their voices. Black folks, I need to elevate their voices. And she said, Mary, some people can't hear it from somebody who looks like me. People need to hear it something when it comes from you. And to the doctor's point, you know, about listening to your doctor and listening, people trust and have relationships, and they trust certain people, and they will hear things from certain people. So I need to get out there. I need to be out there organizing. I need to be talking to folks. And I saw it yesterday. There are people who have never gone out and done anything before. And I organized from my building. I live in an apartment building too. So I organized from my building and we walked over, and I've got the owner of Mother's Bistro, a local restaurant here, called me up a couple of weeks ago, and he's organizing little democracy salons there at his restaurant and getting folks together to talk about these things. And in this, he understands. I mean, we understand we have to support small businesses. We have to use our money. Our money is our vote right now. We don't have to wait for midterms to vote.
No.
We can stand up right now. And even if we've cut back how much we eat out, guess what? We know where we're going, right? We know where we're going in Portland, Oregon, to the people who have supported us, and we're going to support them and help them through this difficult time. But Portland, Oregon, you all saw it on the news, right? In 2020, they tried to make an example of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saw agitators here,
I wanted to follow up and ask about that. How are things out there in Portland? I remember specifically the clash of the butting of heads with Trump and Mayor Ted Wheeler. Is he still in office?
He is not in office. Keith Wilson's in office now. It feels very different now. Also,
in what way? In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. We're optimistic, but we've really got to get to work. Keith Wilson came in with the promise to basically help our homeless neighbors to get and he understands it's not a simple fix. It's about more than sweeps and that, it's not that. That's not helping people. People don't want to live. No one says when they're little, when I grew up, I want to live on the street. Nobody does. Nobody does. That could be me. That could be my children. That could be my family. So he has a really good approach. The other thing is this, if you notice, we're not having the same sort of thing that you saw before, because there's a certain segment, I'm just going to say, racists, white nationalists, who are being shipped in here, who were coming in here and causing trouble, right? And it's a very fine line, as you know, to someone who looks like me needs to stand in the way, put my body in the way. This is my assignment, is to stand in the way. And if I see something, because I can use this, right? I can use this privilege. That being said, there was no problems that went on yesterday. Perfectly peaceful, perfectly fine. Predominantly white folks, but you know what? That's Portland, Oregon too.
No, I was going to say it is predominantly Caucasian. I want to shift the subject just a little bit, because I mentioned, when I introduced Renee, I mentioned her school for a purpose, because she went to Columbia University, and Columbia was fined, I can't remember, was it 40 million, 400 million?
400 million.
Right. And so allegedly Trump, Renee, had some kind of deal way back in the day, because he has the memory of an elephant, and he got snubbed by Columbia on a real estate deal. And he made sure that Columbia felt the screws, because they think that, it's always a retribution. It's always something that went against him. And then Columbia, as well as Johns Hopkins, who else? I saw another very prominent school. The young lady that got picked up off the street and kidnapped.
Oh, that was in Massachusetts. Tufts University.
All of these premier schools, these kids are getting picked up and raided. University of Michigan, before we started the show, they just got a couple of kids that are international students. They're perfectly legally here. So I'm trying to figure out, are you getting any communication from your alma mater about what the heck is going on? What's happening? I'm curious about this whole college thing, about being stripped of their money. One of the premier things about being an American is our schools. and who we attract to our schools.
Right. Columbia sends out, because I'm an alum, they send me stuff all the time. And it's basically just propaganda to explain away their position. The president of Columbia University, and she's fairly new, just recently put out a communication that went on, mainstream media to say that we're going to stand up for the anti-Semitism, and we're going to continue to stand up for anti-Semitism. But this had nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
Right.
So they're using anti-Semitism as a way to, exactly, as you know, using it as a crux, like you said. They're using it as a way to explain away the actions that they did not stand up for the student. Now, I can say Tufts stood up for their student. The president actually put out an announcement to bring our student back and bring her back with unharmed. But they made no mention of any of this stuff. Columbia made no mention of any of the remarks that they made this president about Khalil. They didn't talk about him at all. They didn't talk about how he shouldn't have been snatched off the street and blah, 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 blah. They did none of that. So my thing is, I want a refund, first of all, because all the stuff that they taught me when I went to school, me and my husband at the time, we used to do protests all the time about how against the treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank and blah, 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 blah. And we fought for union rights, and we never got picked up by ICE or disappeared or anything like that. So for me, it seems really weird that this school at this particular time and era has all of a sudden did 180-degree and not supporting organizers or people who want to protest. That's what they teach you in school, to be free thinkers, to fight for the underprivileged and all of that. That's their whole job, to get you to think outside the box. Well, anyway, all I can say is that, yeah, there was a $400 million land deal that Columbia didn't allow Trumpster to have back in the day. And so for some reason, but Columbia can absorb that 400 million. That's why I don't understand why they bent the knee. So don't pay him 100 million. You have plenty of more money. They have endowments. They have all kinds of things. That $400 million is probably like us spending $50 or $100. They won't miss it.
Yeah, but you know what? Now that the stock market is tanking, do you remember what happened when Madoff's Ponzi scheme went down? I remember my eldest daughter went to Vassar, and because of the Madoff situation and how they had invested money, they lost a lot of money, and she wasn't able to come. They didn't bring her back on campus to teach these summer writing programs. So, but look, even though they may have the money, a lot of that money is invested and tied up, and look at the stock market, it's tanking.
I agree with you, but Columbia is not a new school. They've been around since 1754. One of the oldest schools. So they got old money.
Yeah, just
and they got deep pockets. They're billionaires. They're richer than Elon. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
Columbia University has more money than Elon, but they're an institution, so you can't really say they're the richest person in the world. Right. But they have more money than Elon. They could have absorbed that $400 million to protect their student, but they chose not to, because like some of these law firms who bent the knee, they figure it would be a quick fix to easily not have to deal with him. And still, he's still holding the $400 million from them. They got nothing. Just like Schumer got nothing.
It's just like a parent who doesn't discipline their child well. And I feel like we've done that here. We just have not disciplined anybody well at all. We've not disciplined him. And we look so stupid to have taken on a person who is a grifter. I mean, he's making money at the taxpayer's expense still.
This is why, not to interrupt you, Pam, but like when he was convicted and only to be sentenced to an unconditional discharge, I saw that, and I still see it. And again, I'm just speaking for myself and myself only, as a huge slap in the face to the work that Letitia James did in bringing the case forward. It's just kind of like, okay, we know he did this. He was found guilty in a court of law where they brought evidence and all you're giving him is an unconditional discharge. I mean, it's like when he said what he said about shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue and getting away with it. It's like, well, was he wrong?
No, he wasn't.
I mean, it sent letting him off the hook like that. I said it before and I'll say it again. It set a dangerous precedent, and I'm not surprised that what we're seeing now playing out is what's playing out right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to do so.
When the
I'll make
Supreme Court
one
tells
quick
you
point
can't do
about-
anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to make one quick point about the New York case. He's still a 34 count felon.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he served any time or not, he can never erase that. So this is the thing about Columbia and why it's Columbia, because he could have gone off to other schools too. He has a bone to pick with New York City. We're the only place that's ever held him accountable for something. He may
Because
not
we
have
always
gotten-
knew that's what he was. That's why you're a New Yorker, Renee. So you and I know long before he rode down that escalator that he was a
knew who he
charlatan. We've
was.
always known that.
That's correct. And so New Yorkers have always held his feet to the fire. His businesses, his
The
scams,
bankruptcies.
So he always had a bone to pick with New York City. And of course he was going to come after us first, whether it was our universities, whether it was our judges, whether it's whatever. And that's why he's in cahoots with Adams. I mean, look at what he's done with, he is always going to have a target.
Oh man, see, you got me fired up now. We're in my wheelhouse.
Hold
But
on.
that's a separate topic.
Hold on, Latrice. So, Dr. Charles, with all of the prominent medical schools and things that we have in our country, and your position as the chief medical officer, what are you concerned at all with some of your physicians being able to stay in the country or maybe being picked up or whatever? Do you have any of those concerns in your profession?
Well, there was recently a physician at Henry Ford Health System who is being detained because she attended a funeral outside the country, and they said it was a funeral for a leader of Hamas, or a member of Hamas, and because of that, they have not let her back into the country. Now, this is a woman who is a practicing physician. She's not a resident; she's a physician, and they will not let her back into the country. So, therefore, now Henry Ford has been trying to petition for her return.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and a doctor, what is she?
I don't remember what her specialty is, but her patients are being affected by her not being able to return. Her colleagues are being affected by that because they have to absorb her patient loads.
Yeah.
And kind of cover for her. So that whole healthcare system is being impacted. Patients, other physicians, staff, etc., because this one physician is not being allowed back into the country. But the thing that really concerns me, I mean, that's a major concern of mine. But the other major concern of mine is what's going to happen with Medicaid.
Yes.
Medicare, and especially with Medicaid, because Medicaid is for community health centers, which are the for Medicare, for patients, which for community health centers, which are a major stopgap for care for people without insurance, or for the Medicaid population. Medicaid, those health centers depend on Medicaid. Usually 60 to 65% of their revenue comes from treating Medicaid patients. So you're talking about cutting Medicaid by 800, I think they said something like $800 billion or something like that.
900.
Thank you. What is the impact that's going to have on those healthcare organizations?
It's going to, as it is, I know in the state of North Carolina, you hear about the Triangle region where I live, and you hear about the Queen City, Charlotte. But North Carolina has a huge rural area, big. And so a lot of those hospitals and stuff have closed up because we didn't expand Medicaid fast enough. They just expanded Medicaid in this state after 10 years, just a year ago. And people are just signing up like crazy, signing up and getting treated as they should. Everybody, healthcare is a human right. Healthcare is a human right. But without Medicaid, I don't know. We're going to be cooked.
If you're taking $900 billion from Medicare, that means you want people to die.
Mm-hmm.
You want people to die.
Yeah.
That's all that means.
Yep.
And for me, it kind of looks like, okay, if you sick and you poor, you out of here. If you healthy, you poor, we need you to work.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
Right.
Because if they're cutting $900 billion from Medicaid, people are going to die for sure. If they're taking all that money from Social Security, people are going to die because they're waiting to get on Social Security to get service. Those people are going to die too.
And the majority, if for Medicaid, the majority of people who are beneficiaries of Medicaid are pregnant women and children.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lion's share of the people on Medicaid. Now, there's another population on Medicaid that are more adults called the age-line disabled population. Those are who can't work because they have maybe some type of chronic illness that doesn't allow them to, or they are suffering from severe mental illness, which does not allow them to work. So that's why they're on Medicaid. You have people in nursing homes, Medicaid. So there's a lot of other people. You have people, there's families who are middle-class families, but because their children have certain conditions, that qualifies them for Medicaid. So it is not, Medicaid is not just for quote unquote poor people.
Exactly.
People who have recognized the needs that either their health insurance don't cover or they just can't access health insurance.
Yeah.
Trust me, I realize that I got Obamacare. That's Medicaid. Even though I pay for it, it's still Medicaid. So trust me, I get it. But it's just becoming overwhelming how much you're starting to see how much these people don't care about anybody who's not in their tax bracket. Right. I mean, absolutely no regard at all. And then, and I know you look at the senators, and when she said my nickname is Senator, because a rolling joke around my house is I'm Senator Allen and I'm coming in hot. That's what it is. But watching all those senators, a lot of those guys are really just scared because they saw what Trump supporters would do, and they don't want those supporters coming after them. So they got to roll with it. They don't have a choice. So it's just so crazy right now. It's overwhelming. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, and I know I know that people, when I made the comment on the spiritual realm, but it comes back to all what we're talking about. Again, if somebody doesn't love themselves, they're not going to do what's in the best interest of people. And healthcare is in the best interest of people. A living wage is in the best interest of people. So many things that are going on that is happening within this administration is not in the best interest of people. And so therefore, if it's not in the best interest of people, it's in the worst interest of people, which equates to the aspect of evil that we were talking about. Because if you love people, you're going to do what's best you're going to try to do what's best for them. And if you're not, then that's where the evil intent comes in.
You know what, Ron? I call him Ron, y'all, because we go back years. We went to high school together, y'all. But one thing that I learned and it bothered me so badly about healthcare in our country, is that we're the only wealthy country that does not have universal health care, which is insane. And the real reason that we don't have it is due to racism. The bottom line is due to racism, which I feel racism is a disease. And really and truly, you want to make some money, somebody figure out how to cure that disease, because that's just the stupidest disease ever.
Well, our healthcare system, we're the only westernized healthcare system that bases insurance based upon employment. Think about it.
Yeah.
If you're rich, or if you're a person that has a real good job, you have real good insurance. You don't have a great job, then you don't have good insurance. Somehow we have to disconnect insurance to employment, and that's the only way we're going to be able to get to the point where everybody's going to have a level playing field in terms of healthcare. Somebody made this point earlier, and I'm a firm believer that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. And
That's
if
right.
it's a privilege, then everybody should have the same access to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to say too, I'm going to point out that Medicare is not a handout. People paid into Medicare.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
They
yes.
paid for Medicare. And they paid for Social Security. So it's not like they giving people anything.
That's
You paid
right.
into it. So they're just giving it back to you without interest. And then I'll make one last good point, and I'll let you, everybody else have the floor. But I have faith. And what I'm saying is, I don't think he's going to win this. I'm talking about Trumpster, Elon, and their ilk and their people.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that people will stand up because, as an African American woman whose descendants have suffered through centuries of slavery, we're still here. I'm still here. They're not going anywhere. My children are still here. So I believe Americans are going to stand up, and Mary, allies like you will help us get through. But it also took allies like you to have skin in the game to really get involved and want to do something. When people have skin in the game, when they're losing their Social Security, when they're losing their 401k,
It's a game
now
changer.
they're starting to pay attention, and they're willing to go out there and stand in the streets and fight for something, even if it helps us. So on a good note and positive note, they're not going to win. We're going to do this. I mean, look at the Wisconsin Supreme Court state race. Look at Pennsylvania. Look at all those red districts that swung half the points back. People are pissed, and we got this. That's all I'm going to say. We got this. We the people got this. And
okay, I got it.
Can I speak?
Go. You go ahead, but I just want to say, what about that 65,000 votes they tried to get rid of in North Carolina?
Oh, don't even get me started. That's another show.
Come on.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get nothing started.
No, that's a very legitimate concern, because we got to figure that one out. I don't know what. And wait a minute. Let me tell you this before I turn it over to Mary. Do you know that dude has the unmitigated gall to have received his JD degree from an
HBCU? Yes, I read that.
His law degree from North Carolina Central University, the same school that Dr. Bishop Barber went to, William Barber went to, the same school that some of our governors went to, and what have you. He went. I can't even think. I can't think of all the names. But the bottom line is, do you think at an HBCU law school in this country would teach anything about disenfranchising people's votes? They would never. They would never do that.
So I gotta say one thing to Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, since you brought up North Carolina, I'm gonna say one thing. North Carolina would never have gotten Kamala over to win. So there's that. But the other thing I'm going to say too, it's the 20 million who voted for Biden who decided they weren't going to vote for Kamala. They just stayed home. It's the people that voted because of Palestine and voted third party or stayed home. It's those people who believe Trump, who are not necessarily MAGA, but they can see themselves voting for a black woman, black men. Some of the black men I know say, I'm not voting for a woman. I don't care what color she is. So it's a lot of everything else. North Carolina was not the only one, but yeah, you have a point about what happened to the 65,000.
And my thing with the black guys who wouldn't vote for a black woman, who ran your household? How were you raised? What the? Oh God! I mean, okay, it's getting late, guys.
Mary, go ahead, Mary.
Well, I just wanted to go back to the senator's comment. See, now I'm going to call you the senator too. The senator's comment about the overwhelm, because that is real and that is intentional. And I was on a call with Oregon's Attorney General a couple of weeks ago, and he said something because people were asking questions about how do you know even where to file lawsuits, right? Because he came down with one on day one. They were prepared. There was a team and they were prepared. And he said, and it's really stuck with me, you got to remember to distinguish between the thunder and the lightning. The thunder and the lightning, because one of those can hurt you and the other is just noise and distraction.
Wow.
And it gives me hope to know that my Attorney General knows that, and he is making choices accordingly. And if we could all remind each other of that, I think it brings us a lot of hope.
It does.
Very, very nice, man. Very nice.
Good one, Mary. Well, listen, on that note, are all minds and hearts clear at 9:07 p.m. on this Sunday? We'll take some deep breaths before we hear the news tomorrow to see where the stock markets shake out at tomorrow. And
Hey, Pam, you know
I would like to offer a political prediction because we touched on this earlier tonight. Since this is in my neck of the woods, Adams will not be reelected as mayor. I don't know who the next mayor is going to be, but I will say it tonight, April 6, 2025, it will not be Eric Adams.
Yes. No, y'all better not hire him again. No. Mr. Independent now. He'll be Mr. Independent.
Nah, I think he bent the knee for Trump. The question is how far and how low, but I definitely get the feeling that he and Carlos Wilson and those guys, they bent the knee.
I'm going to be like Kendra.
But that's another topic for another night.
They not like
I'm glad that judge stood up,
like
though. I'm glad that judge did what he did, though. That's one good part about it. He did it. The judge who handled it very well.
Yeah.
With the no, y'all not gonna keep just bringing this back. Either we doing this or we ain't. That's what it was.
All right. Well, let's all sign off and wave off to our audience. Thank you, audience participants, for participating. Thank you, my guests. Thank you all so much for a good town hall. And I hope I always learn something whenever I do this show. Always learn something new. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Continue to stay safe, everyone.